Sayo Says, whether she's sitting down by herself or with her friends, that's what Sayo Says. Sayo Says, have you heard what Sayo says? Whether she's sitting down by herself or with her friends, that's what Sayo says. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Sayo Says. Welcome back to my Tubes of You channel. Tubes of me and tubes of you. Tubes of who? Tubes of me. Tubes of you and tubes of you. Tubes of me and tubes of you. Welcome back to my Tubes of You YouTube channel. Welcome back to Sayo Says. Oh my goodness, I've missed you and I hope that you have missed me. Just quickly before we get started so I'm also getting distracted by my heels. I just wanted to show my heels. I just wanted to show the whole fit. The reason why the bag is here because it's part of the fit. I wore, 3 different animal prints today? I could have gone with a fourth. Could have done with a fourth. Do you know what I mean? Anyways, so I went to go and see the Cowboy Carter show. Wow. What a wow. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. But before we get into that experience, welcome back. If you are new here, hello, welcome. You're going to love it here. Honestly, you're going to love it here. Everyone does. If you're new here, make sure you are following. Make sure you are subscribed. Leave a like, leave a comment. But obviously, like if you actually like the video. I don't need pity likes. I won't say no to it, but, the algorithm and stuff. But still, if you like it, let me know. Do you know what I mean? But make sure you subscribe, make sure you comment and all that good stuff, right? Now, Cowboy Carter. I haven't stopped talking about it since. I have not stopped talking about it since. I went with Nails Inc. This brand called Nails Inc. And the treatment was unbelievable. There was a point in the show where the seats started heating up. I had no idea. I was not familiar with the game. I was not familiar with your game. The seats started heating up. And I was just like, heated seats in a box experience with food, with a bartender, making us cocktails. Beautiful, beautiful experience. So shout out to Nails Inc. for taking me to my first time ever experiencing Beyonce live. Spellbinding. You quite literally need, I love making up new words, and I think there's going to be a segment in the show where we do Sayo's keywords and dictionary because, like I said, I love making up words. Where we're gonna have, all the words that I love to make up and words of the days and stuff like that. That is all just to say I need to make up a new word to describe just how phenomenal, just how much of a talent, just how awe-inspiring, just how supercalifragilistically amazing Beyonce is. I was blown away. It was absolutely crazy. Let me know if you have been on the to any of the Cowboy Carter dates. Let me know what your experience was like, and so that we can bond and find ourselves in the comment section, right? Now, the night was amazing. It was great, right? And then, do you know what? This is going to seem like such a random segue, but it doesn't matter. So the end of the night came, right? Mind you, there's 2 different stories I need to tell. So the end of the night came, and I was thinking, you know what? So I have a link. Not a link. There's this guy that I was seeing, right? We kind of ended things, whatever, no problem. But it's we still get along really well. So I'm seeing him soon. And then I was thinking about that after the show. I was just like, oh, damn. That's gonna, because mind you, I'm purring. Do you get, right? Code. We're not gonna say it out loud, but you know what we mean. And then I started thinking about this book that I started reading. Oh, would you look at that? Here is the book. Here is the book. So I started reading this book called The Sex Lives of African Women. It seems like such a random segue to go from Beyonce Cowboy Carter to talk about the secret sex lives of African women. It is well, Sha. It is well. This is my show, babe. I'll literally direct. I will be the one to direct where it is we're going. And okay, thank you very, very much. Anyways, the sex lives of African women. I made a tweet about this. Again, I'm always talking about Twitter. I made a tweet about this, right? And I said it finally came, and I hope that they all do too. And I was reassured by my community that, oh, they very much did. Right. And so I started reading this literally on the train here. And I thought, you know what, why don't we do like a little book club kind of thing? And so I kind of want to center the conversation today around this book and the themes that it explores, right? Now, so this book is quite self-explanatory, right? It's literally about the sex lives of African women. Like, so it's a collection of stories and interviews, etc., but mostly stories and anecdotes and case studies of various African women and their sex lives, written by Nana Dakao Sekiyama, right? So the first story that we are told is of Nura. Nura is a 42-year-old Kenyan woman. She describes herself as currently immersed in a very heteronormative space. She lives in Senegal with her husband and his other wives. This is the first story. I was hooked. I was already hooked. I was already interested. And so it just got me thinking about, I wanted to talk about sex. And let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Not you and me. Not you and me. Not you and me, but the themes of the book are culture, travel, self-discovery, freedom, and healing, just to name a few, right? And I really just wanted to open the space for us to talk about sex. I think it is so important. I was talking to a friend of mine not too long ago about this topic and just how much of a taboo it is, because I started dating a bit more intentionally recently, more so just to kind of get like the experience of dating, because I didn't really show that much of an interest in it when I was younger. I'll be so real. I was always very much, like, focus on your books, focus on this and blah blah blah. And that's not to say that I didn't have crushes. Of course I had crushes, right? But I was never taught how to date. And there was a video that I saw from a creator online. I wish I'd have saved it. But she was basically talking about how a lot of black girls, young black women, aren't really taught how to date, because culturally, talking about sex is something that is so taboo within so many African cultures, so many black cultures, right? And so I grew up not really having that kind of experience or having those kind of conversations with anyone, about, well, my parents anyways, about dating and sex and all these other things, especially not with my mum. It really was just, focus on your books. When you're finished focusing on your books and you've gotten your degree, go and marry and go and have children. Missing out all these other things in between. Right? And so I remember, and this is the thing about taboos, and this is the thing about curiosity. I remember being younger and being very curious about sex, being curious about my body, etc. And so there was this one show. Let me know in the comments if you remember this show, yeah? There was this one show that I used to sneak downstairs. I used to sneak downstairs in the middle of the night to watch this show called Sexcetera. Oh my goodness. Sexcetera was this like sex documentary, sex show thing in which they were just kind of like they were just talking openly about sex and fetishes. And that is where I first had my introduction to the world of fetish and all these things relating to sex. And when I was younger, even though I knew it was coming from a place of natural curiosity, it still felt like perverse. Do you know what I mean? It felt like this big secret, this sneaky thing that I was doing, literally just learning about sex and learning about the human body and desires and all these things, right? And mind you, I must have been secondary school when this was a thing, but I never really felt like I could talk about it openly with anyone in my family, with none of the women in my family, right? And so I was just having to develop my own understanding of it. And so that was one of the reasons why I bought this book, The Sex Lives of African Women, because I wanted to understand what other African women were going through, like what their sex lives were like. And I love that books like this exist, because it's so important to have these conversations. Like I was saying, I didn't really grow up dating. I didn't really pay much attention to it. And so whenever I was in a situation where, like I liked someone and I wanted to pursue something a bit more romantic with them, it was like, going into no man's land. It was like going into something with my eyes closed. And obviously, yeah, like you have conversations with your girls and stuff like that. There were literally times where anytime I had one of my little sex capades, I would be so quick to jump in the group chat, send them videos, send them voice notes. So I'm just like, yeah, so basically what happened was that, okay, cool. So like, yeah, so like it's on my neck and stuff. And then like he starts on my neck and then he starts going down to my nipples and stuff. And I'm just like, oh wow. And then the girls are lapping it up on the other side. So we had, like within my friendship group, we always talk. We always speak about sex and things like that. I have a friend who is Sarah. She's very to herself. She's very greedy with her sexcapades. I'm really just trying to break that ice. I'm trying to break through that exterior because I think she has a great sex life. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think she has it, but she's so secretive. And so I think just being a woman who is more so public facing and being someone who's so outspoken as well. And for me, I don't really think that these things should be shrouded in as much shame as they are. It's so bad. It's so bad because a lot of women, a lot of young girls aren't really brought up with this idea that sex isn't necessarily just something that is done to women. It's something that women participate in because they also enjoy it, because they are also consenting adults who want to explore their own sexuality and who want to explore the world of sex because it's fun. It's fun. It's something that, that fortunately I enjoy. It's something that is more than just like it's more than just a physical thing. It's more than just a thing that you do or that is done onto you that, is for the sake of making a baby. That was honestly how sex and marriage and all these things were kind of packaged to so many young women. Speaking for myself especially, but let me know your experience in the comments. Let me know, were your parents quite open? Let me know, like, did you have quite liberal parents who talked to you about it? And for me, like, whenever seeing like shows like Sex Education, etc., on Netflix, and seeing how people's attitudes, some parents' attitudes towards sex, and like even giving their children condoms to practice safe sex, none of that was even done for me. I had to build my understanding of my sexual desires and my understanding of sex brick by brick, child, brick by brick. Okay. And so that's why I think it's so important to talk about it, because there's like this conspiracy of silence, of shame, when it comes to sex. There's this, it's so taboo that shame is used as a way to silence so many women from speaking about the experiences that we have within the context of, relationships and romance. The fact that there is so much shame that is used to silence women from speaking about the experiences, both good and bad, that we have when dating and pursuing romance, etc., is not helpful to anybody whatsoever. The amount of ridiculous stories that like I have that, and now I look back on, obviously more experienced, I look back on and I'm just like, that's crazy that even happened, or that was, like that was, or there were a lot of memories that I look back on really fondly as well. I'm just like, oh wow, that was really fun. I was always very much, and I blame Sexcetera, to be honest with you, because I was curious. My sexual curiosity was alive and well from when I was like when I was in like year six. That's a story for another day. But from when I was in like year six, I just think that's when you start being a lot more like aware of your body and, other people's bodies and things like that. And it's so crazy, like navigating and moving in a world where so much information and so much knowledge about your body is shamed, is hidden, and is kind of, reduced to just something that you just kind of figure out by yourself, right? And that's not always good. That's not always good, because if you're not talking about it, you're not you're not you're not understanding it, right? So I think it was during Sexcetera that I first was introduced to what was it? Like I think it was a latex kink. When I first started hearing about a latex kink and like balloon kinks, I was like, that is crazy. It opened my world. It opened my mind so much. And I was just like, people like this? I was like, I wonder what else people like. I wonder what I like. All these questions started coming to my mind, and there wasn't anyone that I could speak to about it. People don't want to be forthcoming about their experiences a lot of the time, and people like to pretend like they're more experienced than they actually are, or they haven't experienced something negative when they have. But again, because of that shame surrounding it, they don't feel like they can open up about it, right? Which I think is it happens a lot, obviously, but it's not helpful. And so when you're, now that I'm navigating dating and like figuring out what I like and what I don't like, and not even to make it this binary thing of like I like this, I don't like this. Obviously, it's very context is important, right? But I just kept thinking about like when reading this book, I kept thinking about just how many lessons and how many stories have been hidden or suppressed because of shame, you know? And there's, especially when it relates to women's sexuality, it's something that is spoken about in a way that is like hush hush, like it doesn't matter. Like your pleasure as a woman doesn't matter. Your satisfaction as a woman doesn't matter. It's like sex was described and only seen and described to women and young girls more so from like a biological essentialist kind of perspective, in the sense that is like you get married, you have children. That's what sex was for. And so when obviously like you're growing up and you are, and I wish I'd have had someone to talk to about this, and like someone in my family, like an adult in my family who is more sexually experienced, obviously, to talk to about this and demystify all the things, all the things relating to sex. Like that would have been so helpful. And so you kind of go through this trial and error. You kind of go through this trial and error way of figuring out what it is you like and understanding yourself sexually. And people are still doing that to this day. Like grown women, there are women who have never had an orgasm. Grown women who have never had an orgasm. There were women who didn't even think to look and to check their reproductive organs. Like to check reproductive organs sounds so yuck. Do you know what I mean? Reproductive organ, yuck. But like people don't really think to. There were women who have a very unhealthy, I would say, relationship to their body, to their vaginas, to their breasts, and all these other things. And it's because women's bodies are seen as as it's very weird, because like women's bodies are sexualized and hypersexualized, especially black women's bodies are hypersexualized, but at the same time there is so much sexual suppression, there is so much sexual oppression, that it's like, okay, these are two very wildly different experiences. And so from an outsiders are sexualizing your body, but you are made to feel like you should suppress your sexual urges, or just it should be something that is kind of done in privacy and in secrecy. Privacy is obviously not a problem, but it's the secrecy element of it that is like, okay, cool. No, like, why? I was talking to my manager not too long ago about how I struggle with like having a filter when it comes to some of the things that I talk about, because for me, I don't inherently see shame in things that have to do with understanding the human body, or just things that I just see as just normal. And for me, I love conversations. I love having open conversations, and not judging people when we're having these conversations, etc. When I started getting older and started being more active, started being more sexually active, etc., I'm learning all these new things about my body, about other people's bodies, and the connection between like two people or more than two people, depending on what it is you like. Anyway, so like, again, it was very trial and error. But like I said, I wish I'd have had someone growing up that I'd be able to have those conversations with. There was so much about yourself that sex reveals, that having conversations about, relationships, etc., reveal. Even dating, even forget the intimacy part, the physical intimacy part of things, even just dating, the nuance of trying to, navigate between, okay, like, what's the best way to communicate? How do I communicate my feelings? Like, there were so many times when I was dating someone that I would feel like, oh, should I say this? Should I not say this? Should I let them know how I'm feeling? Should I not let them know how I'm feeling? And if I do, how do I do that? And all of these things where you're trying to figure out by yourself what is the best course of action for you to take. And it's only now that, I'm dating more intentionally to get experience and to understand myself within that, relationship romance context, that I'm understanding that, like, expressing yourself is not something that should make you feel so anxious, especially when it's with someone you're creating a relationship with, that you're developing a relationship with. But because so much of, like, the indoctrination growing up and the narrative growing up, as a young woman, has been about suppressing this, and this is how you speak to there was always so much of a focus on, what the man wants, so much of a focus on what your partner wants. And it's like, well, where is the space then for what I want? How much space is all of that feeling, etc., and my desires, how much space is that supposed to take up in this relationship, in this dynamic? There was one guy that I was seeing. This was probably, looking back at it most definitely was not as deep as, like, 19-year-old me thought it was at the time, right? But during that time, during the moment, it was like, wow, I'm in love. I'm in love. I love this man. Oh my goodness. Like, I was imagining a future with him. I was doing this, blah, 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 blah. It was limerence. It was infatuation. It was because I had such little experience dating and such little interaction with, like, with people romantically, that I just kind of clung onto this one interaction that I had of very, very few. I think at that point, that was maybe what the second person I had ever kissed. I was sure I was in love with him, man. I was sure I was in love with him. And so this thing went on and off for years, and it put me in a situation where I was trying to figure out what it was. Obviously, I had my girls to try and help me, but even then, it's like the blind leading the blind. It's like the blind leading the blind sometimes, And so had there have been, like, an adult in my life that I could, like, talk to candidly about my dating experience and what is going on, maybe there would have been more insight that they would have been able to provide me at the time, that would not have led me down this path of thinking, yes, like, I love this man. I love him, but I love him. Like, I was so infatuated with the idea of loving someone romantically. And so it felt like I was kind of filling in I felt like I was just kind of like walking a path that I thought had already been walked before. It felt like I was just stepping into a role as opposed to stepping into a relationship or a dating situation as myself. I thought that, like, I was going by the things that I thought I was supposed to do when interacting with someone that you're interested in. I had no understanding of what boundaries it is I needed to set, or how to best set them for me. I had no idea, what I was feeling, And so all these different experiences, obviously you learn from them, Like, even with my ex-boyfriend, it was a long distance relationship. Every time I think about this relationship, I just kiss my teeth and laugh. I just kissed my teeth. I laugh. It was my first ever like official relationship. Get comfortable, babes. Okay, get comfy. So it was my first ever proper relationship, like official, exclusive relationship, long distance during, when was it? During undergrad, right? During uni, I think maybe third year uni. I knew I wasn't ready for a relationship. I knew I didn't really want a relationship because why else would I have agreed to a long distance relationship? Mind you, at the end of the relationship, that was like a year and a half. Guess how many times I saw this man? I'm even embarrassed. I'm even embarrassed to say it. But guess how many times I saw this man during this year and a half long relationship that we were partaking in? I'll give you some time. Don't worry. Put your num put put your number your guesses and your estimations in the comments. Don't worry. I'll give you some time. Twice. I saw him twice in a year and a half. Twice. He put no effort into coming to see me. Okay. He had no business pursuing a relationship with me. That was ultimately why we ended the relationship. Come and see how my brother is now saying, oh yeah, the relationship is now starting to feel like a burden. I said, Amy, Amy, burden. We were on the phone. He said that. I said, well, that's it then, innit? Bye. That was it. But in that relationship, I learned so much about myself. So much about myself. I learned about boundaries. And I learned that, you know what, there's a different kind of boundaries that you need to set when you're engaging romantically with someone. You know what I mean? But obviously, these things are, a lot of it is, like I said, trial and error. It's about the experience as well. You know, like you only know what you don't like once you experience it. And for me, that was that. You're never going to talk about engaging with me in any kind of way that is akin to burden. Huh? You're the one that pursued me. It's you that pursued me. And you're talking, yeah, it's time to feel like a burden. It's time to feel like like a burden. Rubbish. Stupid. Very rubbish. Very, very stupid. But I knew I wasn't really ready for a relationship because I didn't really want something so intense, you know? I didn't want anything so intense, but just because I didn't want something so intense and so serious, it doesn't mean that it's justified to have a relationship in which you only see your partner twice a year. No, twice in a year and a half. And both of the times you're the one going over to him. That's ridiculous. That's not the relationship that you promised me. That's not the relationship that you approached me with. That was not the proposal whatsoever. And so I learned so much about myself in that relationship. But I keep on wondering, how many experiences would I have been able to have, leave sooner than I had left, or how many experiences would I have not have even gotten into had there not been such a culture of taboo and conspiracy of silence and shame surrounding, like women's pleasure in relationships and dating, especially again as a young black woman. you know it was there's a lot of navigating that you do in life, that a lot of things, like you have to experience yourself, but there are also a lot of things that you don't need to experience yourself because other people have spoken about it, right? And that's why I love social media. I love social media. It's so important to be having these kind of conversations out loud and publicly, and on our platforms, if you want to. Of course, this is, I'm just a very open person, and I really, like, you actually can't shame the shameless. First of all, I'll tell you that now. You cannot shame the shameless at all, babe. You cannot shame the shameless, because I have no shame in, there is no shame in my game. I have had some amazing sexual experiences. Some that, like, when people talk about flashbacks, it's even like an immersive experience when I'm thinking when I'm thinking back on some of the experiences that I've had. It's like I'm having one of those what do they call those VR sets. It's more than just flashbacks. I'm just there, just like, wow, what a great experience. I'm so glad that I did that. But like, shame is such a massive theme that is kind of fed through so many young women's sexual maturity and sexual experiences. And I know that there was one video that I did where I was dressed as my auntie Sade character. We'll put the video in, where I was basically saying it's not everything that you must bring onto the internet.
It's not everything you must bring to the internet. It's not everything you must bring on the internet.
And I stand by that, but with an asterisk. Okay, because thank goodness for so many of the women who have been brave enough and open enough to share their experiences of marriage, of relationships, of careers, of life, of sex, etc., online for other women to learn about, because we're generally not having these kind of conversations in with the same kind of sensitivity and openness and understanding and curiosity that that we should be having. And so for someone to come online and be sharing their experience, I'm learning so much, learning so much. Women who are brave enough to come online and talk about their experience with domestic violence, it opens your eyes so much. And these are important conversations. When we're talking about relationships, you can't just talk nitpick and talk about the good parts of relationships, because there's a lot of parts of relationships that traumatize people, that really hurt people. And so if coming online and talking about your experience is going to help another woman, another young woman, understand her body and not feel so much like she needs to suppress her curiosity, and doesn't feel like she's wrong for having the desires that don't fit into the heteronormative framework that society is built upon, then I'm gonna do that. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like it's so very important. It's so important. If not for the women who have come and spoken about the realities of how the expectation doesn't meet reality when it comes to things like love, romance, marriage, and motherhood, etc., I would still be in this. I probably wouldn't be, but not to the same extent that I am now anyways. I would not be as understanding and as empathetic and as open-minded and as curious and as knowledgeable as about like the nuances of relationships and love and sex and all these other things as I am now. So I honestly like I make a conscious effort to, whenever I'm consuming content created by somebody who is sharing an anecdotal experience, talking about their experience in motherhood, sex and relationships and their sexuality, etc. I am always here, like I'm always in the comments like, thank you so much for sharing your story. This helped. I think it's just important to normalize and encourage women who are brave enough to share their experiences that so many other people learn from. And obviously, as much as there are people who are learning from it and who are able to engage with their videos and their stories in a way that is, emotionally intelligent and mutually beneficial and mature, of course there are going to be people who are just like, have shame, blah, blah, blah. Shame is not something that we should allow to silence us from speaking about very common experiences. We cannot let shame stop us from speaking about our experiences and processing it and getting other people's perspectives on it so that we are better informed. That's not to say that you internalize what they're saying. Of course not. That's not to say that somebody is telling you how much they hate motherhood, that you too should now go and say, oh, I don't want to be a mom. No, it's giving you a perspective that is suppressed. And it's important to lift the veil on things like this. It's important to lift the veil on conversations around the very human experience of physical intimacy and sex and desires and all these things. I love talking about it because I just feel like it's one, it's normal, and two, because you just learn so much and it's healthy. This is literally just, it's just education, it's knowledge. And I inherently don't see people's experiences as something that should be, brushed to the side. Take from the lesson, take the lessons and the wisdom and the knowledge that you can from someone's stories. That does not mean that you should internalize it. But I'm so grateful for especially mum talk. And like there's this one woman that I follow, and she said she sells seashells on the seesaw. She sells seashells on the sea. Forgive me, but like she tells stories. She reads out stories from regretful mothers and regretful wives. Oh my God. The amount of, she never runs out of content. She never runs out of content. Every day there are several women, because her page focuses more so on the experience of regretful mothers and regretful wives, etc., who are saying, I love my child, I love my children, but I wish I never had kids. Now, I would be silly to not at least listen. Do you know what I mean? It's not like you're internalizing it. It's not like you're now saying, oh, this woman or so and so many women decided that they don't want to have children. And so now I too must now decide that I don't want to have children. No, it's just about listening and understanding that a lot of the experiences that young women have is shrouded behind smokes and mirrors. It's put behind rose-tinted glasses. And so when women are coming out and telling you, this thing is not all that I thought it would be, and there is a common thread amongst them, and they're all saying the same thing, it would be very foolish not to pay attention to that at least. It'd be very, very unreceptive for you to just dismiss it just because it's not something that you can personally relate to. There was a lesson that can be learnt regardless. Do you know what I mean? So when it comes to, I'm definitely going to do more. I'm going to talk about this more. I love talking about this. I love talking about sex. I love it. So like, I want to do another episode on this. Let me know if you want me to, and then I can go into more of my own experiences. I don't mind doing that. I can go into my own experiences a bit more. I can give more of my, my opinion and the things that I know, etc. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section. Let me know if this is something that you are interested in, because I am interested in this. I'm talking about it. I'm talking about it. So let me know if you're interested in this, because I'm going to do another video regardless. I'm so even if you don't worry, even if you don't want another episode, it doesn't matter. It does not. You're going to get it. You're going to like it. You're going to subscribe. You're going to love it. Right. So this is currently the book that we are reading. If you do not have it, I would definitely suggest having it, because it's so digestible. I've already read one of the women's stories, and I've already learned so much. From just the fact that this book has been written. Has already taught me so much more, and I think it's really, really important to consume content that is opening your worldview, that is normalizing conversations that we so often have been prescribed to as taboo and something that should be said in hushed tones. No, my name is Sayo and I love having sex. You know what I mean? Like, it's just about, like, just completely breaking any preconceived notions that sex, as it relates to, women's desires, is something that is peripheral. That's not what we want. We want to be talking about women's sexuality, not through our peri vision, not through peri vision. We want it to be intentional. Do you know what I mean? So let me know if you love this episode. Let me know what you think. And what else? Yeah. So yeah, let me know if you want me to go into a bit more detail about this, and so that we can just so that we can have a nice little chin wag. Do you know what I mean? So that we can talk a bit more. But yes, I have been Sayo. Make sure that you get this. I feel like we should start like a local book club. I think we should start a little book club, and this is the first book that we are reading. Let me know. If you already have it, great. If you already read it, let me know. Spoil it for me. If you haven't gotten it yet, get it because it's great. It's great. I have been Sayo, and you have been watching or listening to Sayo Says. Have you heard what Sayo says? Whether she's sitting down by herself or with her friends, that's what Sayo says. Thank you, and I will see you again soon in another episode. Mwah. Kisses for you. Love you. Mwah.